Well, without holding this up too much longer, we'll go ahead and kick this thing off. And per usual, right, this is being recorded and this will be thrown on the YouTube channel at a later date for viewing purposes. But today, as you guys know, a little bit of a theme here, whenever I am doing our HxGN hacks, I take a little bit of a dive off of EAM specifically and get a little bit more into proving value. I say tongue in cheek some kind of, sales related components, but uh, I will be the first to tell you, right? Like I'm not Tony Bolan. I am not the, leading product expert in EAM. I know enough to be dangerous. But what I do care about more than anything is ensuring that folks like you are getting the value out of EAM and it's doing what you need it to do and you're fighting the good fight. So today, we're going to kick this off with proving some value and how Digital Thinker is doing this for other folks and how we can do it for you if you so desire. Um, Quick intros again. I'm Alex Bolan, the CEO of Digital Thinker, and we have obviously been a EAM partner for coming on 24 and a half years now. We've recently added some additional products from the Octave line, but we're not going to get into that today. So let me start with the question most of you have probably been asked at some point in time. Maybe it's by your CFO, maybe it's by a VP, maybe it's by a new executive. It could be kind of anybody in the leadership chain, right? Maybe it's in a budget meeting. A lot of you, right, are maybe privy to conversations on what does your license renewal look like? And the question is, what are we really getting out of EAM? What is the value we get out of this? And if you're honest with yourself, it's kind of a hard question to answer. You see the value, you understand how it's important to not only you, but the team and the organization. But sometimes for these leaders who are removed, not in a bad way, but they just have a different landscape, right? It's hard for them to see the day to day impact on that. And it's not because EAM isn't working, right? It is, but the value is creating mostly an invisible line on a standard P&L. You can't directly point to a line item and say that prevented failures saved us $2.4 million this year. That's just not how traditional accounting works, right? It's historical record keeping. How much money did we bring in and how much money did we spend categorized underneath that? So today, we're going to walk through a framework that kind of changes that. It's called Value Archaeology. For some backstory, a while back, I read a book that was really hard in the paint on like sci-fi, sciencey stuff, and so I just had to learn more about Einstein's theory of relativity. I don't know why I chose to go down that route. I don't have a science or space background or understand any of these mechanics. I'm just a layman. But I wanted to learn more because it was very interesting and intriguing to me. And my friends, at CERN facility, Peter Yerkso, who, do really cool stuff in the science world were, asking him about, what does E equals MC squared mean? So through that learning and discovery, I obviously had to tie this into, well, how does this fit, let's say, manufacturing or asset intense industries, and how can we use this equation or this theory, so to speak, to help make this world a better place. So that's how I got to here in a very long-winded way. So um, and the end of this 15 minutes, you'll have a complete different way to look how this EA investment is actually protecting not only itself, but your organization. But we're going to dive into what this does look like. So every organization has two balance sheets, right? The one your accountant sees, and then the one that they don't see, perhaps. The one they don't see is where the real story lives. It's made up of five things happening in your operation right now every single day that are costing you money potentially, and it never gets measured. So the first is your OEE gap, which I think I'm jumping ahead of myself on my script here. Yeah. So again, core questions. What's your EAM actually worth? Are your assets performing at their full potential? That led me into the E equals MC squared thing, right? Are we having an object moving or, moving close to the speed of light at its greatest potential possible? So how do we compare that to assets and people? Do we know what our reactive maintenance is really costing us beyond the work order budget? And then can we quantify our value EAM is delivering in a way that resonates with a CFO or a VP or somebody up top, right? We need to speak their language. So let's dive into the 5 areas again. The first is the OEE revenue gap. The difference between your assets are capable of producing and what they're actually producing. That gap is revenue you're leaving on the table either every shift, every day, every month, every quarter, and every year. The second is your reactive maintenance premium. There is more than enough publications, peer studied reviews that verify that reactive maintenance costs 3 to 5 times what planned maintenance does. And we know that, right? We're practitioners, we know that. But trying to educate our leaders on this is difficult. So we need to take a look at, what is this gap and what are we doing? We're running in reactive mode. Are we chasing breakdowns instead of preventing them? Are we paying multiplier on the spend? And like I said, the industry data puts that somewhere between 2.5 and 5 times what planned work is. The third is the tribal knowledge risk. When your senior individuals, technicians, directors or whoever, managers, when they retire, they take decades of institutional knowledge with them. And so that knowledge still has a dollar value, and it's hard to assign that dollar value. It's hard to understand what is that. And most companies have no idea what it is. I think the average hiring and training time for, let's say, a reliability engineer or a maintenance manager is usually about a year. It takes them about a year just to get their foot, planted firmly on the ground and getting things moving. And then lastly, or excuse me, the fourth is friction costs, the daily drag between operations and maintenance. Tale as old as time, right? You got operations fighting one fight, you got maintenance fighting another fight when they should be fighting the same fight together. And how do we align that? The meetings between those two that go nowhere, the work orders that sit, or the maintenance that gets deferred, the shift handoffs where information gets lost, and the friction costs real hours every single week, and those hours do have a revenue value assigned to them. And the fourth and the fifth is compliance exposure. Open incidences, near misses, quality control, regulatory gaps, things that are happening on the production line that are costing us money that either may or may not be a maintenance task, but we're just completely exposed to it. And none of these items really show up on the P&L in a way that makes sense, right? But they're real. And EAM is sitting on most of the data that you need to measure, right? It should be at least. Or if you're not on EAM, right? Like it just depends on how you're valuing that, right? So let's dive into the framework a little bit, right? How we're calculating these 5 metrics, one number. So here is how we do it. I want to show you the math because back in high school, we all had to show the math, and it's important to have credibility to what we're doing. So our OEE revenue gap, what we're doing here is we're taking your annual revenue, whether that's site specific or enterprise wide, and we're multiplying that by the OEE gap. That is a percentage divide by your target OEE. If you're running at 60% OEE, for example, against a world benchmark of 82%, depending on your industry, and your revenue is 1.68 billion, that gap is about $369 million a year of revenue left on the table every day because we're not meeting not only industry benchmarks, but maybe not even our own internal OEE benchmarks. So you can see that gap is massive because equipment isn't performing optimally. When you have a VP or somebody that says, we don't need reliability, we don't need maintenance, that doesn't make sense. We're already hitting our targets. They're seeing the transaction that's happening in the past. What they're not seeing is how much money is being left on the table every single day because we're choosing to neglect the care and maintenance and reliability to our organization. So we need to show that to them. And that's not a projection, right? Like that's math. That's an equation that we use your numbers and it's real, right? Like it's a real equation. So reactive maintenance premiums, we take your annual maintenance budget, we multiply the percentage that's reactive, multiply your cost reactive or multiply by your reactive cost multiplier -1. If 80% of your work is reactive, which is what is world class, if 80% is planned, which is world class, but if 80% of your work is reactive and your budget is 1.69 million, you're paying 1.14 million just to fight fires. When people ask, how can we trim the maintenance budget down? We need to do more planned work and we need the right tools to make it happen. It's that simple. Tribal knowledge risk, take the number of engineers and technicians at retirement risk, multiply the average salary plus benefits, multiply by months to train a replacement divided by 12. Then we multiply by a knowledge replacement cost multiplier. 14 people at a retirement risk, $95,000 average salary with a 16-month to train window. That's $130 million in institutional knowledge at risk. That's walking out the door in every organization in America today with the transition that's happening in the workforce. Your friction cost, this one's a little bit more simple, but it's hard to get this data. You take your total weekly friction hours across the operation. We're going to multiply by 52, then multiply by your revenue per operating hour. So 24 hours of weekly friction in a facility. And weekly friction is how long does it take us to get a permit approved to do work? What's the communication gap between an asset fails and maintenance gets out there and fixes the issue? Or if operations pushes a PM to meet production quota? What are these friction gaps that are increasing time to asset care, right? But 24 hours a week of friction in a facility running 5,000 hours a year, so about a 14-hour day, 7 days a week. That's, and they're on a $1.6 billion revenue scale. That's $410 million in a year of lost value and money because we're not streamlined and we're not efficient and we're not all on the same page. And then the compliance exposure. We're going to sum up all the estimated costs across open compliance incidences. 12 incidents at an average of $74,000 each. That's $892,000 sitting in your risk register. You got a compliance officer that wants to see that low to zero. That's how we get them on board. So we add those 5 numbers together and we get an invisible balance sheet. And that's what this whole thing is designed to deliver, an invisible balance sheet. So for this scenario that we ran through, and I am not advancing my slides, that's a total invisible value or revenue left on the table potential every day of $912 million a year. It's almost $1 billion. That's enough to make anybody's head drop. And these numbers sound ludicrous, right? But I did this with a customer recently, major retailer operating in distribution and supply chain. And this was a single site evaluation we did. This is their numbers, their metrics, and they're leaving almost $1 billion on the table every year due to lack of revenue, or excuse me, lack of OEE, reactive maintenance, everything that goes with it. And we're deploying EAM right now, and we're going to be able to show a significant value and increase on how we're moving to this quarter by quarter. So when you have people that need to meet quarterly earning statements, here's how we do it. So EAM is literally built to close those gaps, right? I know I'm going a little over on time. I'll kind of speed and run through the rest of this. So for the part that matters to you guys, right? You already have EAM, which means you already have the engine to close every single one of these gaps. And let's connect the dots here. The OEE gap is closed when your PM schedules are not only actually being executed, but they're effective. Your asset health data is being captured and your downtime is being correctly recorded. EAM does all 3 of these things. The question is whether you're using it that way or not. The reactive premium drops when you shift from reactive to planned to predictive, and EAM has the workflow to do that. We know we can do it in work order management, PM triggers, parts availability that goes with it. The data is all there. Are we using it to generate the right report? And then the question is whether your team is working with the system or working around it. Is it user-friendly? Are they actually excited to do it? Tribal knowledge risk gets addressed through your procedures library, right? That's a different product talking about AKMS or now, I think, Octave procedural management. Are we following our SOPs? Do we have them documented? Do we have them in a central repository? And are we capturing the tribal knowledge of those folks leaving and putting them in procedures? The friction cost comes into digital logbook shift handover, formerly known as J5, now Octave operations management under the Tempo umbrella. Friction cost comes down when operations and maintenance are working together on the same system. When a work request goes into EAM and both sides can see the status in real time, the where is my work order conversation disappears and trust is now restored between the 2 departments. And on the compliance side, EAM, inspection, operator rounds, corrective action tracking, incident logging, case management, The list goes on what we can do for this inside of EAM. And if we're not using those modules, we might be at a little bit of a risk or leaving money on the table, right? So the question isn't whether EAM can close the gaps. It can. The question is whether you can see the gaps clearly enough to know where to focus. So what does this engagement look like with us? It's a simple 6-step process. We do data collection. We do a discovery workshop between your operations and maintenance leaders and a few other key leaders in an organization. We map the friction. We do the financial calculations. We need, some of your financial data to do this. We generate an invisible balance sheet report, a full breakdown coupled with an executive summary, tied into a conversion roadmap. How are we going to get there? How are we going to do this? Because the software is great, but we can't expect the software to just do it, right? We need to have action to follow up behind it. So how are we going to do that roadmap? And we supply that for you. And so, where does your operation sit, right? Are we reactive? Are we in a transitional phase, or are we optimized? This is a good health assessment to go through. So I say, here's the offer, the tongue-in-cheek pitch, right? We value this at about a $6,000 engagement. We really want to help organizations and we want to help you close the gap where you can. So for about the next 30 days, we're offering this value archaeology engagement for just $500. And you can reach out to me directly at alex.bolan@digitalthinker.com to engage in the conversation and to learn more to see what it would take. But what we get out of this is a structured discovery workshop. We do the 5-metric financial analysis entirely built on your operation numbers and industry benchmarks. We give you the report, an executive summary, and then you have a sheet of paper that is bona fide to be able to take to your leadership and say, hey, we're doing good things or we're not doing good things, and I need a budget increase for this reason. And this is how we're going to get there step by step. So that being said, I know I'm about 5 minutes over on our usual 15-minute HxGN Hacks components. I'm going to hang out here for another 5 or 10 minutes to answer any questions. If anybody has any, if you don't have any questions, I hope you guys have a great Wednesday. I hope you enjoy your rest of your week and your weekend, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one.